which we can have here, and we can eat while we keep going. Try to shorten this thing and go home and enjoy the afternoon, if that's your pleasure.
Available for via the Tea Party website.
Okay, we've got some ground to gain here. Elites, power, and politics. What is leadership? First of all, I want to start by again stating that you folks constitute a lot of the definition of leadership. Sometimes you're just a leader in your home or with your group, your core group. If you're in a quilting group, or you're in a young a play group with kids, or you're in a business group, or in an office, and you have these conversations and you feel the need to share with people. That's a part of being a leader. You know, we all don't have to be elected officials. We all don't have to be the presidents or the secretaries or the treasurers of our groups or Tea Party groups or anything like that to be a leader. Okay? I want to make sure everybody understands that. Lenin didn't need or want large numbers, only a select few. He desired to build a dictatorship of the proletariat, the elite, the small percentage who grasped the abstracts of politics. Lenin believed that only a small minority of leftist intellectuals was necessary to take over the world. Do you know how many actual players, hardcore communist operatives he had when the Bolsheviks took over Russia? He had 100. It was only 100 activists that created the Soviet Union. He didn't need more. He didn't want more. He didn't believe that there were necessarily that many people who understood the abstract of confrontational politics and taking control. How to do it with malice aforethought, how to build it, how to establish it, how to run it. And he also didn't want people with their own ideas on how to do things. He wanted real close, tight control over everything. 100 people. In actuality, they were the Mensheviks, which is a minority. The Bolsheviks was a majority. Well, the Bolsheviks constituted 100 people when they created the Soviet Union. And in actuality, he thought that he didn't need any more to take over the world. And he made a lot of progress toward that. The Communist Party membership in the USSR, in the heyday, only 7% of the people who resided in the Soviet Union were members of the party. And it crumbled. The Soviet Union kept tumbling down. Lenin clearly recognized that only a small percentage of any nation had a sense and an understanding for political abstracts and would act upon that knowledge. So there were a lot of people who were intellectuals and understood the abstracts of politics, but they were never going to implement it. You know, we think about Marxist Leninism, and you think about people like Hegel and some of the other people who wrote communist and socialist theory, but they weren't the implementers. Lenin and Stalin were the ones who took the political abstract and implemented it. Okay? Socialism is an elitist intellectual movement that believes that the masses are asses. That's truly what they believe. That's what Lenin said, the masses are asses. They don't know, they don't understand, they never will. They don't need to for us to lead them. Okay? In America, statistics show less than 5% of the registered voters actively participate within the fabric of politics. Within that small number, there is even a smaller percentage who comprise leadership of both liberal and conservative activists. Within these tiny percentages, the fate of nations resides. You are a part of that 5% in America that is involved, that is a part of changing the political nature. To prove the point, consider the old adage, put your money where your mouth is. It tells a good story. Once political intensity is obvious when we see how much we'll spend on it. The average American will happily spend $50 or $100 dining out with his family, his or her family. But ask him to contribute ask him to contribute $25 to a candidate, and you think you're asking him to repay the national debt. You know? It could be Wally Herger, it could be Tom McClintock, it could be, Doug Amalfa, it could be any conservative asks for a political contribution, $25, and I'll throw in a barbecue, and it's like, oh man, I don't have anything but lint in my pocket, you know? So what are you doing Friday? Oh, we're all going down to the Cattleman's and the whole family, and we're gonna have a nice bottle of wine with our steak dinner. Less than 2% of the nation's registered voters voluntarily contribute money to candidates. Think about that. Less than 2% of everybody who's registered to vote in America are the people that contribute the millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that are spent in political action. In California, a very active political state, only a minute percentage of the registered voters participate. Combine all of the active Democrats, declined estates, Republicans, door-to-door walkers, precinct captains, campaign headquarters workers, left-wing, right-wing, no-wing, combine everyone. And you have much less than 5% of the registered voters participating in the selection of the government. How many folks have walked a precinct before? Volunteered for a candidate, been involved in a campaign, done a phone bank? You know, pretty much you are a part of this very small group. You are the ones that are deciding for those people who don't get involved who they're going to vote for. And it's important for you to understand that. The percentages are smaller when you factor in all those who don't even register to vote. So if we take the entire population and we figure out what that percentage of people are actively politically involved, it's an infinitesimal small group. Lenin was right. It takes just a small group of dedicated activists to make something happen. That's a lesson we need to learn. Activists produce the candidates. Voters just pick somebody already selected for that. You know?
That's true.
It's the activists who are the ones who promote the candidates, recruit the candidates, get them involved, help them to get to the dog catcher, and then park commission, and then city council, and then board of supervisors, state assembly, state senate, Congress, ultimately Senate or president. It's the activists who make those decisions. And those people who are not involved, all they get to vote for are the people who are on the ballot. But they play no role in getting the people on the ballot. That's why it's important for us to understand what role we play. Conservatives must understand this, the left absolutely knows. Elitism is a common malady that affects many, especially those affected with an affinity for politics. Leftist humanists see themselves as superior because they have a deep interest in the workings of politics. Let me tell you, how many people like to shoot guns? How many people like hot rods or hot cars or anything like that? Sewing circles, churches, family gatherings, piano recitals, the opera. I love the opera. Country western bands, music, all that kind of stuff. You see, we have a life. It's called a life. We enjoy things. We want to use the prosperity, the blessings that we're graced with by God, to enjoy things that give us pleasure. To the leftist, hardcore liberal, they enjoy politics. They don't give a rat's patootie if they're driving anything. It could be a bicycle. They don't care. You know, for me, I'm passionate. 1967 GT 500 Mustang. That's oof. That gets my blood going. Guns of all time. I like to shoot 1,000 yards. I like to shoot cowboy. I like to shoot handguns. I like to shoot trap, skeet, sporting plates. If it goes boom, I like to do it. And there hopefully will never be a fire in my house because my garage will go poof. The leftists, their hobby and their work is politics. They read, eat, breathe, sleep politics. Power is their aphrodisiac. It is their pleasure. Yes. It is some of the leaders of the ACLU's motivation, not all of them, because a lot of them are just workers that have been brought on for their skill. In other words, they've built the structure, and everybody has their place in their movement, and they make sure that people don't get out of their place. You know, people that are elected in the Democrat Party, they're there because they have paid their dues. It isn't because they've had a business and they've employed people or they're successful and anything like that. They have gone through the process. They've either come up through a union, they've come up as a staff person for elected people, or they got elected young and they've done nothing but been elected. And they're going to go with the program. Because if they don't go with the program, the Democrats will run a primary opponent and will defeat them. All of their financial resources will dry up. The unions will no longer support them. The teachers will no longer support them. You know, it used to be different. There used to be, there were conservatives in the Democrat Party in the past. That's how we got all the roads built, all the dams built, everything. California was the golden state. We were a great economy. It was wonderful here. When the things we were arguing about in the legislature weren't all of these critical issues of significant moral importance. They didn't have debates about gay marriage or abortion or gun rights. Or it wasn't until 1975 that they sponsored the first anti-gun bill in California. You know, the issues they were arguing is about, well, where are we going to put the highway over here? You know, how many highways are we going to build? Are we planning for the future? People are going to come to California. No, you have people like Jerry Brown who came and became governor and said, you know what? If we don't build it, they won't come. So we're going to stop all building, and we're going to concentrate stuff on our time and attention on getting rid of the death penalty and letting criminals out of prison and do all of these things. So the parties have morphed over time because the left has taken over the Democrat Party, and they're trying to take over the Republican Party. Okay? It is a messianic, although they don't understand that, because they don't believe in God and Jesus in particular. Messianic complex translates itself into a desire to run and regulate everything and everyone, from the scientist to the farmer, the educator to the janitor. This justification to rule others is aided by the aphrodisiac of police power. When you run the country, you run the military or the police force. And what you say and be turned into law, you can enforce because you've got the big guns. You got the army. That is a corrupting power that has corrupted governments since the beginning of time.
And you should also note that they can choose not to enforce laws.
That's true. That's true. Controlling the brute force of arbitrary government is heady stuff indeed, and the most corrupting and harmful influence in the history of man. Our country was created to prevent that from happening. But our founding fathers told us that unless free men who had a belief and faith in God were to continue to be involved in this government, that it too would decay. That's what they told us in so many wonderful ways, in warnings. When they came back and did the Bill of Rights, there was a huge argument in Freedom Hall where they were arguing, we don't need the Bill of Rights. We've got all these freedoms. All of these things are assumed because we're free. And our founding fathers had this argument, and they finally decided, you know, we do need to put these Bill of Rights in there. Because sometime in the future, they will not understand freedom the way we do. They will not have come from a country from countries who so hated freedom and were tyrannical that they won't get it. A few generations of being fat, dumb, and sassy, and they'll forget.
I have a question.
Yes.